Did you know that even with a decent job, many new families cannot stay afloat in Australia? Let's talk about money before you fly. Hello, how are you doing? Barnabas here. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to day 10 of this series, Before You Fly. And today we are going to talk about money. It will be important to have some financial literacy before you move to the diaspora, especially if you want to come to Australia. I know many of you, after hearing that, will say, here we go again. Another person who is living in the diaspora is discouraging others from moving. I'm not doing that, and I'm not trying to do that. I've always encouraged people, if you're looking for opportunities to move to the diaspora, especially if you cannot find them back home. But I'm saying that before you move to the diaspora, you need to know the standard of living in that country. All right, before you jump into the plane, it's good for you to know one or two things about money and the living standards in that country. You know, when you're back home, if you can pay rent, at least you have a fallback plan. You might go to the village and stay there for a while and then come back to the city. But if you move to the diaspora, you're there to stay. You have to make it work. You have no fallback plan. Back home, if you cannot afford groceries, you might go back to the village and ask your parents, your siblings to assist. Or you can move to the village and do some farming. And when you're ready to go back to the city, you do that. But here, you have no fallback plan. You have to afford the groceries for you to eat. And so you need to understand a bit of the cost of living of that city before you move there. So that when you move, you're not surprised. You're not taken aback by what you see. In this video, I'm going to be very practical. I'm going to break it down for you and give you an example of the income of an average employed person and their expenditure, and so that you can see the cost of living play out practically. All right. Now, to begin, let's start with the most exciting part, the income of an average employed person. I know most of you are waiting for that. And I have written them down so you will allow me to read it so I don't miss anything, okay? Assume a family with only one employed person and who is taking care of two school-going kids, okay? Maybe the person is a single parent, or it's a couple and it's only one person, one of them working, okay? And they're taking care of two school-going kids. So assume this person gets paid $40 an hour. That's an average, but it's a very decent pay here in Australia. So it's being paid $40 an hour, and they are working 80 hours a fortnight. Okay, 80 hours a fortnight. That it's equivalent to like 8 hours a day. All right. So somebody is working 5 days a week, but is working 8 hours a day. That comes to 80 hours per fortnight. So the gross earning of this person per fortnight is going to be 3,200. The net is going to be an average of 2,560. So let's go to the expense side, the expenditure side. So remember, it's a family of two parents or one parent and taking care of two school-going children. So the expenses will be something like this: a rent of 2 to 3 bedroom, that's 1,100. That's the average. Okay, it's on the lower side, but let's work with that. 1,100. That's rent for the fortnight. Groceries, $400. That's also on the lower side. Utilities and internet. So utilities here, we're talking about gas, water, electricity, and internet. Let's say $200. Transport and fuel, that's $200. School costs, that's extras, things to buy, for the school going kids and all that, $100 a fortnight. Insurance, that's car insurance. We're talking about $100 a fortnight. Phone plans, so say two of them are having a phone, save $80 a fortnight. Miscellaneous of $100, that's clothes, toiletries, and things like that. And the total expenditure comes to 2,280. Now, from a net income of 2,560 and an expenditure of 2,280, we are only left with 280 Australian dollars. Okay? And that's before considering things like donations and giving. All right? So if you're paying tithe or giving donations, for example, and if you're strictly paying tithe of 320, then you're even short of the budget, okay? So it's very tight. It's a very tight budget. That's even not considering if you have kids that are going to daycare or after school care and you're supposed to pay for them. And we have not even mentioned supporting your families back home. So you're already going into the negative. You're already going into the negative. If you're having a car lease or a car loan, all right, you're already going into the negatives. You don't even have anything to save at all. You're actually going to borrow in order to meet your budget. If you have a car loan or car leasing, if you have some other subscriptions like sports, things like that, you're already moving into the negatives. So you will need more money, all right? You will need more money to be able to finance this budget here. You can see how tight it is. And the bigger killer in this budget is rent. Housing is very expensive in Australia. I don't know about other countries, but I'm equally sure that in the diaspora, housing is a big cost when we are talking about your budget. Okay, so you've seen the breakdown. You know, when I started with the income and I said the net income is 2,560, I know many of you quickly converted it into your local currency and thought that's not bad. That's, you know, a decent amount of money. So now let's talk about what people do to mitigate this. What do people do then to stay afloat? You know, with this kind of expenditure, huge expenditure, you know, what do people do then? I'll just mention a few things that people do. Number one, that's why people do 2, 3, 4 jobs. All right, for you to be able to stay afloat, then you'll have to go and look for other jobs on the side, do some side hustles, yeah, you know, just to make ends meet. So because you're supporting people back home, you are a person who likes donating, helping others. You also don't want to just sit so tight. And some of you also have ambitions to save and be able to do other things. So that's why people go and look for extra jobs to do. And that's why people in the diaspora are very busy. They are very busy working day and night just to be able to meet the budget and also have some money to save and to be able to build themselves. So in the diaspora, people are very busy. One job is sometimes not enough. Second one is if both partners are working. If you're a couple and both of you are working, then you probably stand a better chance. So you remember, you still have to take care of the kids. So you will have to balance between the two of you. When somebody is working, someone is at home, another one is working in the evening, one is taking care of the kids at home. Sometimes one is working at night, the other one stays home, and things like this. And it's very challenging. You really have to be very intentional and very organized. So be able to manage the family and also work. Okay? So that's why it's very challenging. It's very challenging in the diaspora to be a family, to stick together, to be able to work together because of the pressures. Okay? I've just read a simple budget here, simple expenditure budget, but it's never that simple because in families, different families have different expenditure appetite. Some of you want to buy new cars, stay in better houses, do this and that, do that, and so to be able to finance that, it takes a lot of things. It leads to a lot of pressure. To be able to finance that kind of life, you have to stretch yourself. And to stay afloat as a family, you have to be very organized to take care of your children, and so also to be able to work to meet that kind of budget. So if both of you are working, sometimes it becomes very tricky. You hear of people having, the whole week not be able to see each other as a couple. One is working at night, another one is working during the day. So as the other one who works at night comes in the morning, the other person leaves for work. When the other one comes back in the evening, the other one goes out. Okay? So it's just people, you meet for a couple of hours. It's very, very difficult sometimes in, families with that kind of setup. Especially when your kids are still young, they cannot be left alone. So they are either in school or you're with them at home. So it becomes very difficult to organize between the two of you how to manage. And also depending on the career that one of you is doing, some people are nurses, so they work at night. Some of you are caretakers, so they work at night, and so on. So it becomes, just managing how your schedules or your shifts are, and also being able to take care of your family. It's a very tricky one, but whatever they're doing, they have to make sure that this budget is met. Number 3 is being able to follow a budget religiously. There are couples or families that are very disciplined, and so they have to write a budget and they follow that budget religiously. And that helps. When I read how much money net, of 2,500, some of you drew up calculators and you started, converting it to local currency, and you thought, wow, that's a decent amount of money. Okay, the net of 2,500 a fortnight is a decent amount of money. It is. But then when I began to mention the expenses, then you thought, wow, the entire money is going just like that. In fact, the amount disappears before you get back home. All right. So if you converted that amount, please tell us how much it is and what you think, whether that amount is decent in your country or not. For a fortnight, 2,560. How much does it equate in your local currency? That's a fortnight. How much is it in a month? And is it a decent amount of money? So like in Kenya, I did the math. It's about 204,800 in a fortnight. And so in a month, it becomes to about 400,000 Kenya shillings, which is, say, a decent amount of money. So it's okay. And if you're in Kenya, you can manage, you can live well on that, because I'm sure you might not pay more than $100,000 a fortnight in rent. Okay, so it's different here. The big killer in the diaspora here is rent. All right, housing is very expensive. So for families who can do a budget, whether it's weekly or fortnight or monthly budget, and religiously follow that, it really helps. So you only spend what you have or what you're able to generate. The income you're able to generate, that's what you live on. All right. So it is good to write a budget and follow that religiously. And then lastly, what people do, some people cut down the cost. Cutting down the cost helps. Okay. It's not a very popular thing to do, cutting costs, but some people have survived on very little, in the diaspora, because they're disciplined, they're able to look at their expenditure and be able to see, do I have to spend that amount of money on that thing? All right. For example, subscriptions. People subscribe to a lot of things, sport channels, some movie channels that people don't even have time to watch. All right. Is it really necessary? All right. When you're also choosing providers for utilities, have you checked whether that's the cheapest? Okay. So have you evaluated, or you just keep renewing every year, without evaluating whether you are getting the cheapest or the best services? All right. So people look into those things. Your insurance, is it the cheapest? Because, for example, car insurance, some people just wait and it's renewed every year. They don't check. They don't care about that. But if you check, you might find that your provider is actually charging you more, and there's no difference in whatever service they provide and whatever other service providers give. So be able to evaluate whether you're getting the cheapest service. So negotiate and get the best and the cheapest service, so that you can save a bit of money every month. People have said no to car leasing, no to car financing, so they only buy a car that they can afford. All right, so that saves you a bit of interest and things like that, because when you look at the repayment and the amount of interest you pay on car leasing or car loan, it's a lot. All right, but can you afford it? If you can afford it, well and good. If you can't afford it, then you rather go for a cheap car which you can pay cash. It's easy to say, but Some people can be disciplined to be able to follow that, others cannot. Others have moved to cheap accommodation, okay? They don't look at how beautiful it is, how spacious, so long as it can accommodate the family, provide the basic, shelter, then you go for it, okay? Because here in Australia, the standard things that you want in a house, you will get, all right? The standard things you will get in a house, you will get in all the houses, okay? So if you can get a cheap accommodation, the better, because the services are the same. The standard, is the same. It's just a difference in sizes, difference in location, and things that are not even so much important. Also, some things that people do is they keep kids in public schools. If you cannot afford private schools, Catholic schools, then put your kids in public schools. With that, you pay very little, just in terms of stationery and some few other little costs here and there. But it's not as much as the fees you pay in private schools. So if you can't afford it, keep your kids in public schools. The curriculum is still the same. It might be different in terms of culture, school culture, and a few more things that kids get to be taught. For example, religious studies and things like that. But the curriculum is still the same, whether in public school or in private school. Other things that people do is you save on buying things like clothes, or buy clothes in second-hand stores like Salvos, Vinnie's, and or in cheap stores like Kmart, Big W, and so on. So just being able to manage your cost. Please avoid credit card like a plague. If you still don't have enough money to spend, don't raise your appetite, all right? You feel like you have power to spend while you don't have money, okay? So please avoid credit card. If you still don't have the money, don't raise your appetite to spend. In the next episode, episode number 11, we will talk about documentation. What do you need to prepare, to fix, or to sort before you move to the diaspora? Before we move, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. All right, support us. Be able to support us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on TikTok, Facebook, and other social media platforms. All right, I want to see you in the next episode, and please stay safe. Let us know if you missed anything from what we've talked about today. All right, till next time, my name is Barnabas, the son of encouragement. Bye-bye, and God bless you.